We ready to learn something today?
Amen.
Okay, well, I hope I can accommodate. Now, I'm assuming that all of you want to come and learn how to make Google love you.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement? So, well, I appreciate that. Can I get an hallelujah? So, the most common question that I hear is, why am I not found on Google? Is that a question you keep asking yourselves? Why am I not found on Google? Anybody have an idea of why that is? Some guesses out there.
Tag words.
What's that?
Phrases.
Tag words, phrases,
Keywords.
keywords. Okay. Back there?
10,000 people trying to get the top 10 spots.
10,000 people trying to get to the top spot. You have a comment?
Content depth.
Content depth. Good reasons. I'm going to simplify it down to one simple phrase. You might want to get your pens and papers out because maybe a little complicated for some of you. Google doesn't like you. You know, the interesting thing is when we try and get on Google and we have the expectation that, well, if I build it, won't they come? Well, the answer is no. Being at the top of Google is an earned right. It's not a privilege. They're not mandated to list you. In fact, they're not even mandated to care if you exist. But I think what the problem that we're facing here is we're not asking the real question. And the real question is, why in the world do you care what Google thinks? So let me ask you, let's bring it out here to the crowd. What do you think is the reason that Google is important to you?
Customers.
Customers? What about customers?
Coming to your site.
So customers coming to my site, so I want Google to care because I get customers on my site.
Yeah.
Okay? What else?
Google's the #1 search engine, so almost everybody uses Google.
Google's the #1 search engine. Any ideas about how big they are in comparison to the others?
89% of consumers use Google.
Okay? And I've heard that
Okay.
number change.
Yeah, but if you look at Bing and Yahoo, they have nothing.
Yeah. So our friend from the, are you still with the Better Business Bureau? Okay, our friend from the Better Business Bureau, give him a shout out. 89% of people use Google. I've heard that number as low as 70%. Even if it was 50%, that's a pretty impressive number, right? You had a comment back there?
I'm just going to say it's the portal to the web nowadays.
Google is the portal to the web. So when we say Google, what we are actually saying is online marketing. We use Google anymore as a euphemism. Google's become a noun, it's become a verb, it's a part of our normal lexicon. I Googled you. Well, it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, Google's just a big number, really. But it's become a part of our normal lexicon. So when we talk about strategic marketing and applying that to Google, I want to set the foundation just a little bit and talk about tactical marketing first. I want to be able to set the differentiation between what tactical versus strategic marketing is. Anybody want to venture a guess on what tactical marketing is? Any brave soul out there?
Striving for immediate reaction.
Striving for immediate reaction. I like that. That's pretty good. What do you think about radio? Is that a tactic or is that a strategy? It's a tactic. What about billboards? Tactic? Strategy? It's a tactic. Now, I may have a strategic plan that encompasses the use of radio, billboard, web. But all those individual components are tactics. And many things that we do on the web are also tactics. Now, the discussion today is going to center around the web because we are, after all, a web consulting firm. However, these principles that we talk about can be applied to all of your marketing needs, everything that you do. So when you meet with a media company, the most common thing that they will do is give you a whole slew of statistics as to why their tactics are the best strategy for you. So here's an example from my industry. 77.4% of North America are online. And of course I've got the source there. That way if anybody wants to check my stats, you can. I'm a big fan of the understanding that stats never lie, but liars use stats. So here's another stat. This one you can take to the bank. 84% of searchers will never make it past page 2 of Google. Now, I'm not sure the exact number, but our experience in our company is about 50% of searchers never even make it past page 1. Okay, so it's a bit difficult to see this. ComScore says this. Here's another one for you. Online advertisers only have 50 milliseconds to get your attention. So when you have your web page up there, if your consumer doesn't like your web page, less than a second, they will tune off. And we can thank Amazon for that. We can thank these big companies. We can thank broadband for that, making us a little impatient. Here's my favorite quote. If you search for anagram on Google, it will recommend Nagaram. Try it. So did you meet Nagaram? So what you'll find is that marketing companies and media companies and advertising companies, they will come to you and they will say, well, 58% of our demographic is 18 to 54. And that's as useful as saying that all people 18 to 54 wear shoes. It doesn't mean anything to us. What kind of shoes do they wear? It doesn't matter. So let's get a little better definition on what tactical marketing is. Tactical marketing is considering individual tactics rather than looking at the big picture. First 2 bullet points that I have for you are 2 tactics that are common in the web world. One is link building activities. Now, we're not going to go into any details on what these mean, but this is a very effective web marketing tactic. Another tactic might be pay-per-click. Anybody know what pay-per-click is? What's pay-per-click?
Expensive.
Pay-per-click is expensive. Okay. What else? Anybody else have a more descriptive description?
Google Ads.
Google Ads is the most common use for pay-per-click. So you get the little sponsored links there in Google. Those are pay-per-click. But then, of course, marketing tactics are also, as we talked before, about radio. The one that I am a favorite to bag on just a little bit is are the Yellow Pages. I'm not a big fan of Yellow Pages. Anybody from Yellow Pages in here? I see some smiles, but if you are, you're just not brave enough to raise your hand. So when we think about tactical marketing, it's the individual tactics that get us to where we want to be. But the problem is if we look at tactics before we look at the strategy, we're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity because those tactics may not go anywhere. Years ago, I had a friend that tried to start an insurance business. And the insurance company that he worked for, I won't name any names, but their initials are State Farm. And they said, you have to do a billboard. So we're going to put this billboard up when you launch your business. And they put it out right there at Garrity Boulevard, and the freeway had some, 50 million people drove by every day. I think it was the official statistic. And then they had made him do a radio campaign where he ran, I think it was like 15 spots a day during morning drive and afternoon drive, and he ran that for a month and a half. Any guesses on how many phone calls he got off of his radio and billboards in the first 90 days? Guesses?
0.
Come on, give him a little credit.
1 or
Get 3. Get 3. I think it worked. Now, he didn't sell any of them, but I think it worked out to about $14,000 a lead. Now, that is quintessential tactical marketing. When the economy is great and business just comes in, we can throw our money away like that anytime we want. Can you do that now? Absolutely not. So let's talk for a moment now about strategic marketing. Am I in your way?
No,
Sorry.
no, it's all right.
All right. So what is strategic marketing? Any thoughts here? Strategic marketing. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. I had to make it up myself. So first, Strategic marketing is tactic agnostic. It doesn't matter what tactic we use as long as it supports the strategic goal that we have. So a lot of people think, oh, you're a web guy. You must hate radio. You must hate Yellow Pages. No. I hate marketing and advertising that sucks. I don't care what it is. If it grows your business, do more of it. If it doesn't grow your business, get rid of it as fast as you can. The challenge that I have with most marketing tactics and most advertising tactics is they are a long-term commitment. It's hard to mitigate that risk. So if I put in a Yellow Pages, how long is my commitment? It's a year. My father a number of years ago bought a Yellow Page ad, and they messed up his brand colors. Completely messed it up. And he put a lot of work into getting the branding right, the brand identity right. He called them up and complained the day after the book came out. And they said, oh, we're sorry. We'll give it to you for free next time. Well, how does that help me for the next year that I'm paying on this? So, tactic agnostic. If it works, do it. If it doesn't, don't. And if it stops working mid-campaign, stop doing it mid-campaign. Strategic marketing is long-term, whereas tactical marketing by necessity should be short-term. If we have a very good strategic plan, it's more like a year plan, but a tactical marketing plan might be the duration of one small campaign or a 4 to 6 week period. Strategic marketing is defined by your business objectives. We're going to have an exercise here in just a few minutes where we're going to look at your website and define your primary objective, and I'll teach you how to do that. But think about your business. What is your primary business objective? An objective must be measurable. We're here in January, we're into January, and we need to grow our businesses this year in order to be a continuing viable threat to our competitors. If we have a business objective that says, I would like to grow this year, that means nothing. I can't measure that success. I would like to grow by 12%. Now I have a benchmark to plan against. So we need to define our business objectives, then think of the strategies that support it. Now the most important thing, this could be web, this could be radio, this could be television, this could be word of mouth. It doesn't matter. The strategic marketing guiding principle, and in my opinion, the first and foremost guiding principle to strategic marketing is your behavior is different than your consumer's behavior. So think about that. I can't tell you how often I talk to clients and they want something done a very specific way because that's how they like it. Your customers don't know that. Your customers do what they want to do because they know what they know how to do. And that's it. So, then comes the question, how do we apply this to Google? Now, when I think about how we apply it to Google, I actually want to change that. How does this apply online? Well, I'm going to give you an example to take you through this process. So, this example is an HVAC company wants to market online. And then substitute yourself in this because this concept holds true. So this HVAC company wants to go online, and so they decide, well, we're going to have keyword targets. Yes?
What's HVAC?
Oh, good question. What is HVAC?
Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And no, he's not a shill. He asked that on his own. But I appreciate you saying that.
Well, I would never get air conditioning out of that. I would have got academic computers or something.
And that's actually kind of my point. An HVAC contractor, I mean, the reason why I know what HVAC is not because I happen to think heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It's because their stupid trucks say HVAC general contractor, or they say an HVAC company. So, an HVAC contractor might say, well, I want to get repair services. They're going to say, okay, I'm going to Google, I'm going to have people do search marketing for HVAC repair. And you do the stats, and it says 9,900 searches. That's not a bad number of searches, right? That's a pretty good target to hit. Well, but what if I got furnace repair? 33,000 people are searching for furnace repair. Well, what if I wanted AC repair? 90,000 people are searching for AC repair. So, the search that the HVAC company thinks is important, people don't care about. Your consumer's behavior is very different than yours. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's right. And we run into the same problem in our company. It's very difficult to think outside yourself when you are marketing. It is very easy to assume that other people think the way we think. It's easy to assume that if I know what PHP and MySQL are, certainly everybody else knows that. It's not the case. And I use those acronyms on purpose because most of you may not know that. So, we need to apply this thinking to our business. How do we do it? The first thing we do is not think about the tactics. I don't care if it's search engine marketing. I don't care if it is. I don't care if it's radio advertising. I don't care about any of the tactics. And in fact, I don't even necessarily care what strategies I might apply. What I care about first is the objective of my business or the objective of my marketing. The number one thing that I want to accomplish. So we're going to go through a little exercise. We have little pieces of paper that we're going to pass around. And because, of course, we're a web company, we're going to formulate this discussion around your website. But again, remember, this can apply to any type of marketing that you choose. But as you get this piece of paper, I want you to think about your website. Or if you don't have a website, think about one of your competitors' websites. And I want you to think in your mind, first, I want you to define the primary objective. And I want you to think about this primary objective. What is the one thing that you want the website to do? Now, here's the key. I want you to make this a measurable, meaningful, and reasonable objective. I don't want you to put, well, I'm getting 13 hits a day right now. My objective is to get 50,000 hits a day by next month. That's not reasonable. It's not, and it's not that it's not reasonable because it can't be done. It's because the budget in order to accomplish that is incredibly unreasonable. Now, the next thing is I don't want you to worry about the strategies or tactics because all strategies need to support your objective. Tactics must support your strategies, and your tactics will change as the time changes. So if you wouldn't mind, take just a moment or so and complete this. Now, I want to give a few of you an opportunity to plug your website and then tell us what your primary objective is. And then give us some ideas on why you chose that as your primary objective. Anybody brave enough to go first? I see 2 hands up. You must be really excited.
What do you need?
Well, tell us what your website is first.
My website is shamot.com.
Shamot? S-H-A-M-E-O-T?
M-O-N-T.
M-O-N-T. S-H-A-M-O-N-T. Okay? Shamot.com. What do you do?
Photography.
Oh, you're a photographer. Very nice. Okay? What's your primary objective there?
Sell my services.
Sell your services. How many of you chose sell your services?
Or book clients for my services.
Okay. How many of you put something to the effect of sell your stuff?
More specific. I said to convert 5% of all hits to sales.
Okay. I like the specifics. So when you're thinking about your objective, be a little more specific. How do you think your site's doing right now at selling your services?
Nothing.
So you have the curse of knowledge. You know that it is having a hard time because you're not selling your stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm selling some products, but not getting bookings.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. So if you need a photographer, shaymont.com. Okay. What's your site?
The name of it?
Yeah. TomWilsonCounseling.com. Are you a mechanic? Oh, probably a counselor?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of counseling?
Online alcohol and drug abuse classes.
Okay. So, online alcohol and drug counseling. And you had a very specific goal of converting 5% of your visitors. What does that mean, converting?
That anybody who clicks on, continues on, and purchases a class or service from us.
So people will click on, buy a class, and is it an online class that they will participate in?
It's totally asynchronous, yeah. It's totally all online without intervention from you at all.
So it's a self-paced learning program.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of grades you give yourself on that?
8.
You gave yourself an A. So you feel good about the results that you're getting so far?
So far, yeah.
Good. Good. I like to hear that. Anybody else want to talk about what their objectives are? I liked his because it was very specific, very measurable. Go ahead.
The website's boiseidaho.com, and our objective is primary, number one, first page, top ranking for the keyword Boise, Idaho.
And I think you're doing pretty well right now with it, aren't you?
We are.
You've been around for, what, a month?
Month.
boiseidaho.com. Check it out. It's got a lot of good local information. So they've been around. You had how many visits this first month?
We are currently seeing 15,000 unique visits a month.
15,000 unique visits a month. So what grade did you give yourself?
An A minus,
A minus. Why did you go with minus?
because we don't have top ranking yet.
Okay. So here's the interesting thing. As you go through this grading process, I have found two key options that people select. They are either too easy on themselves or they are too hard on themselves. Now, a professional, we can help you define which one it is. We're not afraid to tell you when you're making a mistake. It's how we get paid, quite frankly. Anybody else want to share something? Somebody wants to plug themselves? Go ahead.
I own a family reunion retreat business called Albion Campus Grove outside of Pomerelle, just right outside of Burley. And our primary objective, of course, is to generate profit, but our website is just having major problems getting people to that site. They can't ever find it. So I guess my goal would be able to, utilize those keywords that are there to have people find that site. But we stay busy in the summer, but we're just not busy in the winter. So.
Okay. So tell me the website again.
It's albioncampusgrove.com.
albioncampusgrove.com. Okay. Great. Anybody else before I move on? I want to give you some ideas of what you can do next. So, I want you to look strategically at your objectives. What that means is I want you to take the time to look at your objectives and identify all the tools that are available to you and start thinking long-term about how you might incorporate the use of those tools. In the web world, the first most common strategy that we look at is search engine optimization. And search engine optimization has a whole slew of tactics below it on how you can get to the top of the search engines. The next strategy that we look at in the online world is how do we generate more traffic? Some of those tactics might be pay-per-click advertising. Yes, it's expensive. Sometimes it really is the best way to go. Sometimes it's not. Maybe email marketing makes sense. But I will say the most common form of online marketing that I see mistakes in is email marketing. Make sure you understand what you're doing before you jump into that space. Other tactics might include social media marketing, getting on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Anybody have a chance to see Chris Miller's Facebook presentation today? A few of you? Facebook is a spectacular tactic, but Facebook is not a strategy. Facebook is a tactic. You want to apply only the tactics that support your objectives, support your strategies. If you have to reach the mass market and you have to reach them all today, you have a few tactics that you can choose from. You can choose online. You can choose social media. you can choose search. But maybe radio does make sense for a very finite period of time. But be careful and avoid buying your marketing services from your media salesperson, because they're focused on only selling their tactic because that's how they get paid. And if you need, ask the professionals for help. Now, what I'd like to do now is open this up for discussion if there are any questions. We've got about 10 minutes or so, and let's talk some specifics about what you're seeing that you need help with. Go ahead.
We are on a page in Amazon.com. If you look for what I sell is a web lumbar back support. That's a big word for a product that costs 2 Starbucks coffees.
Okay.
And that's the big problem with it, is the price and the margin are very low. We have gotten on a Amazon page with the kingfish. The kingfish in that industry is called Angel Sales. Number 2 and number 3 are also affiliates of Angel Sales. So we end up as number 4. Our strategy so far, this is brand new. I mean, this is literally last week. We finally.
Brand new strategy as of last week?
I'm sorry?
Brand new strategy as of last week?
Yes.
Okay.
Issues are price. You can't do much about the price. You can be competitive with the other 3 companies that are really Angel Sales companies. They're all one. Although they identify themselves as different logos, they're really the same company. You can't. Our strategy so far is to be price competitive, including freight, and hoping to get some spillover from the 3 big ones, which are 3 above us on the page. If you go to Amazon.com/lumbar back support, Angel Sales pops up, and we're 4th below their 3 companies. Not much has happened yet, but it's, like I said, it's really brand new. It's really last week, so
Okay.
maybe I'm too impatient. But given that we're locked in on a minimal price, you can't do anything about being about 2 Starbucks coffees for price. I have them listed for 2 for $19.99 plus the freight. Those fall right in what the other 3 are asking for this, essentially the same product.
Okay, so what's the question?
The question is, what can we do besides just be price competitive and be on the same page they are? What could we do with a low cost product, low margin product? What could we do to make ourselves stand out
So
from the
we have just to summarize, we have a low cost product. It's a commodity that we're trying to sell.
virtually is?
And we want to compete on other levels besides price. Besides price, right?
Yeah.
Okay? There are 4 parts to any marketing campaign. And any of you with a marketing background will understand these pretty well. 1 is price. 1 is your product. 1 is your promotion. I guess that would be the 2nd and the 3rd. And then your 4th is your place, or where you sell that. Okay? And the realtors love to say location, location, location. Well, location only handles the location part of that, which is place. When we think about branding your product, whether we brand that product online or offline, we have to take into consideration that there are the 4 key elements. Now, recently, many marketers have started adding a 5th, and that is presence, a 5th P. And presence connotates relevancy, connotates what are people doing now. Now, when you have a commoditized product, it is very difficult to use promotion to show it as a better product, but simply to use promotion as to show it as a more available product. The key to successful marketing, whether you're online or offline, if you want to move outside of that commodity space, is to find a way to make it not look like a commodity anymore. If we're stuck in Amazon's world and we are selling only on Amazon, then we're very limited to the tools that Amazon provides that allow us to go outside of our own marketing opportunities. So one strategy you might consider is getting away from the Amazon store and going to your own presence that allows you to market it in the way that you see fit. And in our space, there's one simple example that I like to look to, and I think of the email marketing space. Many of you may have heard of iContact or Constant Contact.
Mm-hmm.
And there are hundreds of emailing services out there. And in our office, each of us have different ones that are our favorites. My favorite is actually MailChimp. MailChimp.com isn't necessarily any better from a quality perspective. You can do great campaigns in other programs. It isn't necessarily more cost conscious than others. They all have about the same pricing structure when you look at it in the long term. Some are more, some are less. I like MailChimp because of its irreverent approach. It makes me laugh because when you make a mistake, it tells you you're dumb. And I like that. I like being slapped in the face occasionally. Not by my employees, though, by the way. So, take a different approach. Email marketing is a very commoditized product, but MailChimp is a good example of how they have taken their own complete approach and done it their own way. Okay? What other questions do we have?
How do you make Google love you?
How do I make Google love you? It is that strategic approach. You have to think about what your objective is. And I think that the simplest answer is, in talking about earning your right to Google, is understanding the simple concept that Google doesn't care about you. Google cares about the searchers that are searching for you. The more relevant you are to your audience, the more relevant Google will recognize you as, and so therefore will return results for your audience. Now that's a long way to say, be better. Write better content. Engage with more people online. Last year, Google officially made the statement that they value highly links in social media. The way you interact and with whom you interact in Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and others is a very strong indicator to Google how relevant you are to people. But social media from a search engine perspective is still a tactic, and it may not be the most appropriate tactic for what you're doing.
So then what is Google, because they have Google bots, what is Google bot, what are they really searching for when they're going through the metadata of your website?
So what is a Google bot searching for? Anybody know what
I mean,
a Google
that's
bot
what
is?
you're really relying on.
Yeah. What's a Google bot?
Spider.
A spider. Spider?
Crawler.
Crawler? Those are all industry jargon terms, right? The Google bot is simply a program that scans your website to return back to the index at Google what your site is about. And it scans all the websites in the world. Google's Spider, or Google bot, is looking for content that is most relevant to the readers. That's what they care about. Now, we mentioned at the beginning meta tags. Google does not care about meta keywords. You can put all these keywords in the meta, or the information about the information. And we suspected that for a number of years, but in November of 2009, they officially said, we don't care about hidden keywords. In fact, if anything, it would cause you problems if you put too many hidden keywords. We want to return results for people. That's who we care about. And so Googlebot is looking for text and images and video and information that will prove that you're relevant to searchers.
So they're mostly hitting your main landing page. I mean, are they looking through all the pages? I guess because I'm a photographer as well, I have a flash-based website. Really, the only text I have in my website is on the first page. There's a lot of, metadata that I've typed in. But otherwise, I'm trying to sell images.
Sure.
So
So anybody ever done an image search? You type in a name of an image and you see the image come back. The reason why those images are known to Google is when first thing it looks for is the name of the image file. So if you give the name of the file of the image a more specific name, Google will recognize that. And there's also other tags, little attributes that you can associate with those images that allow Google to know, a little title. You can give the image a title and an alternate name. And as you give that to those images, Google will recognize those images. So,
But will that really work for websites that are Flash-based? Because I don't know if it's true, but I was told that Flash-based websites, Google can't really see that info.
so will
It's
it?
not HTML-based, it's Flash-based.
Yeah, will it work for Flash? The answer is absolutely not.
So basically,
If you have a Flash website, Google will not even know you exist, other than you have a domain
really
name.
is to switch back over to HTML.
Yeah, you want to have HTML and you know the biggest problem that we have in marketing, in business, in all these things that we try and accomplish, the biggest problem that we have is not doing too little, but is thinking too much. So we have this vision of how we want things to work, and we get into this endless cycle of trying to think through how someone's going to do it and try and game the system. Bringing it down to its simplest form is always the best approach. A good idea is always the simplest idea. The more complicated we make our web presence, the harder it is for Google to know what we do. A simple line of text and a well-placed image can provide more to your site visitors than having movement and graphics and all these things that end up distracting from our primary objective. If our primary objective is to sell an item, then why do we have all the things around it that prevent people from looking at that one item? And Google recognizes that as well. The more distractions we have, the less relevant we are to searchers. Okay?
How often does Google check your website or go to your website to be able to see?
How often does Google check your website? The best answer I can get is it depends. It depends on how relevant you are and how much you change your content. If Google visits your site regularly and finds that you're not changing it, then they're going to progressively get longer and longer before they check it because they don't want to bog down their servers more than they have to. If you're blogging on a regular basis and making changes on a regular basis and you have rich content with comments, etc., they could check your website as early as, or as many times as 10, 12, 15 times a day. So and there are ways that you can look at the stats to identify how often Google is visiting your site. Some sites that I've blogged on and maintained in the past, I was seeing them come once an hour. And so I would get something up on a blog, for example, and in less than an hour, it would return in the search engines on certain keywords that I was targeting. Okay.
How important are backlinks?
How important are backlinks? So backlinks are the concept that other people link to your site. Think of a backlink as a vote to how you've done. If everybody were to stand up in this room and everybody started pointing at other people, who would I know is the most relevant person? But if all of you pointed to the same person, I would know that person is the most relevant. Now, the other thing about these links, these backlinks, is they're as votes to your website. It's not a one-to-one ratio. If I have 100 sites pointing in different directions, each of those websites have a different credibility level. So people get essentially more votes. Boise Craigslist, for example, has a credibility of 5 out of 10. It's kind of like the Richter scale. So 5 is not 1 more than 4. 5 is like 10 times better than 4. Okay? TributeMedia.com, for example, has a credibility score of 7 out of 10. Google has a credibility score of 10 out of 10. And so when you look at that credibility score, the higher the credibility, the more that vote counts. And Google looks at those inbound links, or as you mentioned, the backlinks. They look at those inbound links to your site, and the more votes you have, the easier it is for Google to recognize with whom you are relevant. Okay. Another question?
Could you do a bullet list of the top 5 things to make Google love me?
Bullet list, top 5 things. Do I have to do them in order?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll break it down to 3 things. Let's simplify it even more. Yeah, let's get it down to 3 things. There are 3 things that you have to do. One is links. The more people that link to you and the more related they are to you, the more votes you get for Google. The second is the back-end coding. All the geeky stuff that I have other people that are smarter than me figure out. Making sure that it's coded properly, that it's not in Flash, that the HTML is done properly, and that everything works properly, that back-end coding. The easiest thing, however, that we can affect ourselves as business owners and marketers and salespeople and office admins, whomever we might be, is simply writing more compelling content. More compelling content is what Google is looking for. And if you write consistently compelling content, other people will repost your articles and give you a link anyway. So if you write compelling content, you satisfied that first bullet point of link building. So, link building, proper coding. That's all right, Mr. PC. So, linking, coding, and content writing.
In regards to linking, like say you have, I don't know, a blog, your Facebook, your Twitter, and all that stuff, is that is that better than someone else? I mean, is it a wash because it's your own site essentially, your own content, or is it better in the long run? I mean, obviously the more you have, better. But
can I sum up the question by asking what kinds of links are the best kinds of links? Is that a better way to say it?
Basically, is it always better to have as many other people as possible? I mean, is it even worth your time to have backlinks from your own stuff? It's lost.
So if we have our own stuff,
Which most people do anyway.
right? So maybe I have a personal blog and I have a business blog that are separate from my business site, and then I've got a business Facebook page and I've got a business Twitter page, and all those are linking back to me. They all have a certain level of weight that they give you. What we do know is that if Google recognizes that we have control over all of those avenues, they will reduce the value they place on those links.
Okay.
So for example, if I have a blog and I have a website, and they both end up getting updated about the same time, and they both are on the same server, and they're both updated by the same IP address, and they both have the same number of links coming into them, and they both have similar types of content, Google is going to recognize pretty quick that they obviously are controlled by the same person.
Okay.
So we're going to not necessarily devalue, but at least reduce the value on the quality of those links that come in. It's a little more difficult when Google looks at our social media activity. They can't necessarily see that as well. But what we do know from Google is that social media does have a high value placed on those links, and that value is directly related to the quality of the person providing that link. So for example, on Twitter I have, I think at last check I had about 9,000 people following me on Twitter. I have a certain level of credibility, but my social media guy, my Twitter guy that does work for us, he has 90,000 people following him on Twitter. If I post a link out there, I have a pretty good amount of credibility. But when he posts it out there, he has a lot more credibility. And that just goes to reason that he has 10 times the amount of influence in the community, so therefore he should have more influence when it comes to Twitter and to social media and to the search engines. Okay?
Question about the content, say on the home page. I mean, it's like the first couple paragraphs on the home page, are they really important, as to, describe what you do right there? I mean, kind of your elevator pitch or whatever you call it,
So the question is but are you relating to specifically the home page?
Home page. Right?
Okay. So the question is the content on the home page, how important is it? How do we write it, etc. The first way I can answer that is your home page is by far your most important landing page. It is the page that should generate the most amount of natural traffic. When we think about the content on there, we have to be careful and not think of content only as words. Content is also imagery. It could be video. It could be the way it's presented, the way it's laid out. Some of the best websites have the least amount of written text, depending on what we're trying to accomplish. In other words, depending on what our primary objective is. When we think of that home page, if I can look at that home page and in less than a second, remember they had the stat, and I would never use a stat to lie. We have the stat that you have 50 milliseconds to get someone's attention. If in 50 milliseconds someone can look at your website and they know exactly what your intent is, I don't care if you have one word or 1,000 words. If I know what your intent is, the moment I click on that website, then I would say that your content is a success. Now, in terms of Google seeing that, the more content you have, generally is thought to be better. However, if you have too much content, then you run the risk of talking about too many things. And if you talk about too many things, then not only do you dilute your message for your site visitor, but by extension, you also dilute your message for the search engines. And they don't know what to think is important. If you all go to tributemedia.com, you'll see that the content we have on the homepage is as minimal as we felt like we could make it. With a little bit of information at the top of the page about a particular client, with a little blurb about our 4 key services. Now, we have hundreds of services that we offer, but we've distilled it down into 4 key focus areas. And then we just have links to other places on the site. Simplify that message. Again, the best ideas are simple. If you can't communicate that idea in just a couple of sentences, then we have a branding issue more than we have a web issue. Well, I'm grateful for the opportunity to come speak to you today. I hope that this was of benefit to you. I hope you at least walk away with one nugget of information. Thank you very much.